Welcome to the You Can Man podcast, episode 16. I'm Josh.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Dave.
And on this week's episode, driveway car repairs.
All
right, guys, welcome back. Dave, how was your week?
What's up? It was good, as always. I got a question for you guys. How often would you say you go to Home Depot on the weekend? Are you a multiple Home Depoter?
If I am on a project, like a specific project, minimum 2 a day.
Whoa. Okay.
Like,
so
yeah.
4 times?
If on the day, whichever day I'm working, probably twice a day.
Okay. 4 times, obviously 2 days in the weekend. Yeah, that's a lot. I
usually have to make multiple trips as well.
Now, if Home Depot wasn't 6 minutes away,
it's very close, isn't it?
I wouldn't do it.
That's true. I remember my dad when I was a kid. Like he would just, back and forth all day long.
Oh wow!
If we're all honest here, it's a little bit of an escape.
Sure.
Right.
It's a little break from the project.
It is a little break from the project. Yeah. Like you've been working hard and you're like, gotta go to Home Depot again. Darn it.
Yeah, that's lazy. It's real lazy.
It is lazy, but it just happens a lot. I was just curious because I think I went 3 or 4 times this weekend and I'm like, this is not efficient.
Right.
But I don't think I'm alone.
Yeah.
Do you guys make lists before you go?
Sometimes. If it's more than like 4 things, then I got to make a list.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a pretty good list maker, but obviously not good enough. I never remember my dad going to Home Depot because I think he tried to honestly do every project with stuff that already existed in his garage.
Because you guys lived on a farm in the country.
Nope. He just was that guy that saved every nut and bolt and wire and scrap piece of board. And yeah.
Here's a helpful tip. If you're helping a friend who maybe lives across the country, whose name is Josh and lives in California, and say you're helping him work on a project, you can go on Home Depot's website and find the Home Depot that's closest to him and make a list of things that he needs. If he's not knowledgeable on what is...
You can tell him what he needs and send him that
list. What it is that he needs, right? And then if it's their Home Depot, then you can email them that list and then they'll be able to tell where in the store that is. So very helpful.
That's a good point. And that brings up another point that I had, that when I don't want to talk to anybody at Home Depot and I can't find something, I pull out my phone, get on the Home Depot website, and you can look up like where everything, you find the item you're looking for. It tells you like what item and what aisle, what bay. It's the way to go.
Yeah, I've never seen that feature. So you can actually send someone a list at their store, and that list will also tell them where each product is located.
Well, all you're doing is you're pulling up their store, if it's across the country, figuring out where they live, what's their nearest Home Depot, and then you're creating a list, and you always check in-store items.
That's pretty cocky of you to not. You're not on the project. You're all the way across the country, and you're like, I got it. Don't worry about it. I know everything you need.
He said it was super helpful.
Okay.
That's good. Hey, this is good for a lot of people. Maybe you got older parents who live across the country, or a sister that lives across the country, or a brother that doesn't know much about shopping at Home Depot. But
what's more annoying to that person that you're trying to help, sending them 18 different links?
Well, I'm putting myself in Josh's shoes and imagining you specifically telling me what I need, and I'm like, don't tell me what I need.
Yeah, but son. He reached out to me and was like, hey.
I got that. So he needed a little bit of help. Hey, man, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, he is a avid You Can Man listener, so thanks, Josh. But
Other Josh, what you got going on?
Oh, not much. My wife and I are in the middle of potty training our second born child.
Fun.
Yeah, it's going pretty well.
Really?
Yeah, surprisingly well. We made mistakes on the first one because the first kid is the guinea pig. I was an oldest, so I know how that works. But yeah, we're doing some lessons learned on the first one, applying those to the second one. So far, the potty train is moving along nicely.
If you could write all that down, because like I've been through that once before, and I don't remember what worked and what didn't work. It was just all hands on deck. Everybody's focused on the goal, and we made it happen.
Do you guys have any songs that you have?
What? Negative.
Really?
What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, my kids love that.
There's songs?
There was a YouTube oh man, I'm trying to remember the song. I'm not going to sing it, but
Please do.
our kids loved it.
No, we. All I can say is don't get frustrated because
Don't get mad, don't yell.
That's when you turn your kids sideways and it'll backfire. No, you just kind of feel it out. Like we have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old is obviously the one learning how to potty train, and he's kind of watching his brother go.
Probably helps.
And we just asked him, like, hey, do you want to try the new potty? And he's like, yeah. And so he just started doing it. He's not had an accident. Well, he's been dry from every sleep and nap so far, and we're almost a week in. So
That's one new word for me.
fingers crossed.
5 to 7 years ago, I don't think I'd ever used the word potty before, but now it's just, it's in your vocabulary when you have kids, right? Dad life.
Yep.
Dad life.
Yep.
I did want to mention our last podcast. I noticed as I was editing through everything, we mentioned killing several animals. Well, not killing. I mean, Dave had to put his dog down, but I was listening to it. I was like, man, I just told everybody I just killed all these chipmunks in my yard with a pellet gun.
I was just going through in my mind because I didn't remember. I was like, wait, which animals did I talk about? Because there have been several.
Well, I guess.
Dispatch.
Yeah, there was the putting the dog down, me killing chipmunks, and then, collateral damage.
Listen, those chipmunks are invading your house, and they've got to go.
Invasive animals.
Yeah, I do stand by
Not the
it.
dog.
I do stand by it. They had to go, but I do feel a little bad about
We're
it.
not happy about it. You don't have to do it, but
Yeah.
we
We weren't celebrating it.
Right.
Maybe you were, but we weren't celebrating
Well,
overtly.
I did say that I
talked about how cute they were, right?
Well,
it's all coming back to me
I
now.
said that they were cute, but then I also said that I texted the kill shots to a friend. So there's
That's
that.
a little bit morbid.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up, and I do acknowledge that. I apologize.
Well, we can. I think our listeners understand. Sometimes you have to get rid of nuisance pests.
Yes.
And that's that.
They got to go.
Yep.
Okay, Josh, take it away with our topic at hand today.
Yeah, topic is driveway car repairs, meaning these are things that these are repairs on your car that you can totally do yourself that are most often situations where you think you should take your car to the mechanic. So, we're going to go through them, but things like your starter or your alternator or these other things on the list, you hear it, you just automatically think, this needs a mechanic's touch.
Yeah, if you're the guy in the past that when your alternator goes out, your mind automatically goes to taking it to the mechanic right now, no question, got to do it. No, we want to help you think through that you can do these repairs in your driveway. It's not a big deal. And it's going to save you a load of cash.
Yep. So let's get started here. We're going to start with the alternator. So on one of our very first podcasts, we talked about the alternator and what it was and what it did. And it basically charges your battery while your car's running. So your battery's running all of your electrical systems, and the alternator is being turned by your engine in order to recharge the battery. That goes out. I'm sure almost everyone listening has heard, my alternator went out and my car doesn't run anymore. So this is a part that is, in most cases, pretty easily replaceable with basic car tools.
Yeah, most all of these repairs that we're going to mention are completely dependent upon the model of car you have. So we may say alternator, and 9 times out of 10, that is definitely something you can do. But you may have that oddball car where that's one of those repairs that's insanely stupid, and the engineers shoved it way back.
Watch it. Hey, don't badmouth those engineers. I know what you're saying, though. Like, a lot of times, if I'm going to do a repair on a car, I'm asking myself, or I'm looking, how deep inside the engine is this part? And the alternator is generally on the top of the engine, right, or close to it. It's fairly easily accessible. So I think that's why we think, this is a pretty easy repair to do, and you can tackle it.
Yeah, also for these, we're not going to tell you how to change these things. We are going to give our opinion on whether it's something you should do some research on your particular vehicle and get into. Because like Tim said, depending on the model, could be different for each one.
Right.
So
a couple notes on alternator. It is possible to get a bad alternator brand new. Okay. It's possible. It is completely possible. Aftermarket parts. I'm telling you, it's happened before. So keep that in mind. Don't let that get you down if that is the case. But alternator is definitely something you can do. I was going to mention, we always talk about going to YouTube, right? Because we learned how to do a lot of stuff by going to YouTube, right?
Yeah,
There's,
totally.
probably the number one car repair guy on YouTube now is Chris Fix, right?
Okay.
Hey guys, Chris Fix here. Have you guys not ever listened to him?
I'm with you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And I guarantee you, he's going to have every single one of these repairs, he will have a video on, and he does an amazing job of walking you through that process.
Do they still make the Haynes was it the Haynes manual?
The Haynes and the Chiltons.
So yeah, the Chiltons is the one I never had
You mean the joke book?
when I was the what?
The joke book.
The joke book.
That's what me and my friend Brandon always called it.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, because you would start to do a repair, and you would look up in the book, and it would be like, step 1, remove engine, or something, just something stupid. We would actually have a challenge where it would say, remove this, this, and this. And we're like, I think I can do that without doing that.
Oh.
Nah, see,
Right?
it was always helpful for me because, it does like blown up views of everything and it tells you where things are. It's very specific to your car. You got to buy it for your model vehicle. I always take pride in owning
Yep.
the Haynes manual for my car. I don't know if they still make the Haynes
They
manual.
do. They still make those, and that pre-YouTube, that's what you had.
Yeah, that's what you had to use.
That's all you had.
The joke
pre-YouTube.
book.
So, yeah, that's funny. I've never heard that before. So, alternator is a can-do. At least look into it. As with all of these, at least look into it. That's what we're saying here. The starter on a car, it's what helps turn the engine over when you're turning the key. Any special notes on that, Tim?
I would say a rear wheel drive vehicle, the starter's going to be easier, I think, to change, just because the engine is oriented in a different way than a front wheel drive vehicle. And a front wheel drive vehicle, there's so much more crammed into that engine bay.
Mm-hmm.
So the starter may be a little bit more difficult on that, but it may be really straightforward. Again, you just have to look this up, but never let, I'm just going to take it to a mechanic, be your number one go-to. A starter, I feel like, is definitely something that's worth researching and doing yourself. I got a story about changing a starter when I was restoring my 1975 Ford Bronco. Okay. I had put everything back together. The machine shop had put the wrong flywheel or given me the wrong flywheel when they balanced the motor. That's part of like the balancing process. Mm-hmm. So the flywheel, the starter makes contact with the flywheel, which then turns the crankshaft, turns over the motor. And they given me a smaller flywheel than they were supposed to. So it was like this grand, okay, we're finally going to try to turn this thing over. And what happened? It was too small. So the gears on the starter, it just went, so the gears on the starter, the starter was working just like it should, but it didn't hit anything to turn the motor over. Uh-huh. So it was so
huge letdown.
Yeah, well, and think about that. To correct that, I had to take the transmission
the whole thing comes out.
back off to get the right flywheel on there.
No project can go without a miss like that.
Yeah, that was a big one.
And you're not taking that down to Jiffy Lube to have them fix it for you, right? Like when you're rebuilding a car, like it's on you,
Yeah.
Okay, so next item here we have is radiators. Radiators are where your coolant goes. It's where the green fluid goes. If you see any green fluid draining out of the bottom of your car, you've got a problem with coolant somewhere, likely the radiator. They go right at the front of the engine, and they can be damaged by rocks or birds or anything that can be hit on the front of your car. The plastic, a lot of plastic parts on those radiators can just wear out. They can crack over time, especially in older cars. So we have it on this list, though, because these are located, like I said, on the front of the engine, and they're usually only encumbered by a few pieces of trim or plastic, maybe some braces, but they're usually pretty accessible on most vehicles.
Yeah, you may have to deal with cooling fans, though. So depending on if you have electric cooling fans, you're probably going to have to take those out. If you have a manual like fan, clutch, radiator fan,
sometimes those are all mounted together too, like they'll all come out.
Well, the electric ones, yeah. The a mechanical one with a fan clutch will be attached to the engine. So you may or may not have to take that out. But again, we really feel like that's something you could for sure do in your driveway.
I'm curious if you guys ever do what I do, because a lot of times I struggle with diagnosing what the issue is. Sometimes a radiator, it's kind of obvious because it explodes, but a starter, an alternator, sometimes those are a little bit harder to diagnose because the first thing you think of is, oh, my battery's dead. But I've taken my car to a mechanic. This was like back in college when I had no money, and had them diagnose it for me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, well, I'll bring it back to you, and then I'll take it back and fix it.
Shady.
It is shady. Now,
I think that's okay if you throw them a few bones.
well, again, when the first time that I did it, they were like, oh, okay. And so I left. Well, the second time I did it, they were like, okay, yes, just a $90 charge for diagnosing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, let me say about starters real quick. Most times, it's not necessarily a mechanical issue with the internals of the starter. It's usually the starter solenoid, which most starters have the solenoid on the starter, and it never makes sense to change just the solenoid. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you've done a lot more car repairs than I have.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is it may not physically be the
entire start, like the whole unit.
Yeah, but you're going to replace the whole unit.
It's probably just easier to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, along with radiator, we have Tim. I know you wanted to mention the upper and lower radiator hoses. So there's these main hoses that plug into a radiator.
Yeah. If you're going to replace the radiator, it would be so dumb of you not to replace the upper and lower radiator hoses. And these are pre-formed hoses from, they make them like
They're
this.
rigid. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty rigid, and they're preformed in the shape of where they need to go. Now, if you have an older car, on my 98 Explorer, you would think that Ford Explorer, they made tons of them, right? But I did have to kind of go back and forth as to, is this the right hose? Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind and bring your old hose with you to AutoZone or wherever you go, and make sure you match that up correctly.
That's a great tip for a ton of DIY projects. Whatever part you're replacing, take it to the store. Take it to Home Depot, AutoZone, wherever you're trying to replace that part, just to get a direct comparison. Okay, related to the radiator, we're going to mention the thermostat, which is regulating the flow of coolant to the engine. The parts in that thermostat can wear out. The spring can wear out. It can get gunked up in general and cause temperature issues in your engine. So those are usually fairly accessible. A lot of times they're nearby the radiator. This might be something you can do all at once again because they're very cheap usually to replace for most models.
Yeah, the only thing about the thermostat, if you've never had to deal with any sort of gaskets before or taking out, because it's going to be inside the thermostat housing. And so you're going to have to clean the surface of where that gasket goes. And so, just do your research and make sure you know what you're doing with gasket. Anytime you get a new thermostat, it should come with a new gasket that'll go on that thermostat housing.
The next items we have on here, we've kind of lumped them all together here. We've got relays, fuses, EGR valves, sensors. They can be oxygen sensors or coolant temperature sensors. All of these are electronic and they sound fancy, but a lot of times they're kind of a plug and play deal. Like you just buy a new relay, which is similar to a fuse in some cases, and you just take the old one out, unplug it, and plug a new one in.
Yeah, you'll want to pay attention to what in the world caused a fuse to go bad. Because if you don't look into the root cause of that, then it's probably going to go out again. It could be a fluke thing where something got turned on at the same time as another thing, and that's what caused the fuse to blow. Or you may have a legitimate bad ground somewhere. So those are things you really got to look into. As far as sensors are concerned, I will say you get to a point where a car is a certain age, and there could be sensor after sensor that it could be, So when you have a check engine light come on, it may say it could be this, or this. Mm-hmm. What I've always found really, really helpful is going on your make and model specific car forums.
Yes.
Yeah, because invaluable, because everyone's going to have this, or not everyone, a lot of people are going to have the exact same issue that you had, and it's going to take you a while to sort through everything because a lot of these forums are not as user-friendly. The search function is solely based on whatever the last guy described his issue as. So you kind of have to think through, how would another person describe the issue that I'm experiencing, and then you kind of go from there.
Yeah, but there's a ton of information on those forums. I've used them a lot for car repairs. There's something about the 98 vehicles that they're just easier to work on, and that kind of lends to your point where there wasn't sensor after sensor after sensor. I had a really rough idle on a 98 Maxima. Went on the forum, the Maxima forum, tons of information on there, and they were like, "Oh yeah, at 130,000 miles, the mass airflow sensor goes out. Replace it, you're good to go." It's the easiest repair I've ever done. I bought it on whatever website, took the old one out, put the new one in, and boom, the car ran like it was like, magic. It was great.
So yeah, try to find your car specific forums. I know I have an '03 Lexus and Club Lexus.
Rich.
Club Lexus is a great website. It doesn't sound like a car repair website, but it is. So yeah, those car specific forums, super helpful.
Yeah, when you have check engine lights come on, though, a lot of times they'll say this such and such sensor, but it's not necessarily saying that sensor is bad. Just saying like, hey, we got a really crazy reading on this, and that might show up on the code reading. So don't just get the reading when you take it to AutoZone. They'll do the check engine light thing for free, right? Don't automatically assume whatever they tell you. I just recently had a friend take his car into AutoZone, and it pulled some code, and it was something stupid that they were telling him to replace. And I'm like, that is not it at all. Do not listen to a word they're telling you. Don't do that at all. So don't
go to AutoZone, then call Tim.
Don't automatically assume that whatever they're telling you at AutoZone is the thing that you need to do. And also, when you start to get into sensors, don't just think, okay, well, I'm going to replace this sensor and just keep going down the
Yeah, you're going down a rabbit hole.
Because you're going to waste a lot of money. Do the research and take the time to really research that issue before you start dropping money on it. Now, I will say, always start with the easiest thing first, right? Like O2 sensors, they go bad fairly regularly. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a
definitely.
really common thing to go bad. So if you want to replace that, cool, go for it, because that's a really common thing, and it's a pretty sure bet that probably is the issue.
Yeah, and it's pretty affordable as well.
Yeah, maybe
in the grand scheme of taking it to a mechanic.
At the most, maybe, I don't know, $80.
Yeah.
Now, you will need a special socket for that. Dave, you borrowed mine, right?
I think so.
You did, because you texted me and you're like, you have an O2
like, yes.
sensor socket. I was like, what kind of question is that, Dave? Of course I do. I was going to say, though, if you don't have that, that's an easy loan a tool at AutoZone. You can go there and get that tool
for free.
Leave a deposit, and then you bring it back, you get your money back.
Yep.
Nice. All right. Next one we're going to mention is serpentine belt, or just other belts that may be under the hood. A lot of those easily accessible. There's a diagram on the engine. There should be a sticker with a diagram on the engine that shows you how to run the thing. But again, YouTube search.
Yeah.
Can show you how to
when
do that.
you look at that serpentine belt for the first time, you'll be like, nope, I cannot do that.
Right.
I can't do that. Because you're going to look at it and you're going to think, how do I even get that out of there? Mm-hmm. Right. But if you just slowly and methodically think it through and where it's routed and where you've got to get around this or that pulley to get the thing out and then back in, just take your time, slow down, because it is a huge headache. I mean, if you get into it and just think this is going to be super easy and you've never done it before, you're going to get really frustrated really quickly. So take your time and
use the tension release also. That's the key. Because I mean, just from experience,
you can't muscle it off.
First time I tried, I'm just gonna wing it. I'm just gonna stretch it on there. No, that's not how those work. You gotta use the tension release. But yeah, take your time.
Right. Use your breaker bar that we said was what was the title of that podcast?
Car tools you should own.
Yeah,
Whichever
you've got
episode that was.
So we said, just
breaker bar, you have to have one.
Yeah, slip a pipe over the wrench that you have to give yourself greater leverage. And changing a serpentine belt, it is really helpful to have a second person there that can be holding the tension release while you're getting the serpentine belt off.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on to one that is a little more complicated in most situations, but can still be done in the driveway and save considerable money. And this repair is power windows. So power windows often go out on cars seemingly totally randomly, but a lot of times it's the one you use the most on the driver's side because you hit up Starbucks every morning. The motors can go out. The gears can get worn out.
I've had this happen a lot on multiple cars, and for me, 2 times it's been the attachment of the lever to the window breaks. Okay, so my wife's car right now has zip ties holding it together, and once you get the door off, once you get the panel off, it's a pretty easy diagnosis from that point and relatively easy fix. They're fairly simple once you get the paneling off.
Yeah, so I would say that you're more likely to have the window separate from the track than you are the motor to go out. Do you guys agree? Or
I would
disagree?
agree. I would agree with that, unless your car is very old and owned by Josh Matthews, who runs them into the ground. It's probably
And
not
who
the
goes
motor.
to Starbucks every morning apparently using that window.
But no, it's a good point because you're using that window a lot. You're using it all the time. I don't use it at Starbucks. I use it at Chick-fil-A. But it is going to go out.
Yeah, and when we talk about accessibility, you've got to pop the interior panel off, and behind that panel, there's going to be limited access into the actual internals of the door. So you're going to have to be reaching your hand in there. But again, for most cars, for a lot of cars, the parts are very affordable, and this is definitely a fix that is going to cost you hundreds at a mechanic.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, like I said with the serpentine belt, this is a type of job that is going to look completely overwhelming when you take that door panel off. So just take it slow. You can totally do this yourself. Pro tip, when you're taking the door panel off, go ahead of time. Go ahead and invest in a set of plastic trim tool removal.
Yes.
So
I need to do that.
It's an assortment. Harbor Freight has it. Harbor Freight. And it's an assortment of just different pry bars. And
It's not going to break the plastic clips.
yeah, because
when you.
this is what you're going to do. You're going to think, oh, okay, I'm going to get my flathead screwdriver.
Yep.
And you're going to scratch the crap out of your paint.
Totally.
And you're going to be ticked at yourself later. So do yourself a favor before you attempt that repair. Get a plastic trim tool kit.
Yep, super cheap, Amazon or Harbor Freight. Yeah, let's move on to a couple things that we've kind of debated on beforehand that could be considered maintenance, but we've kind of decided we should include them here because I think they're pretty common issues we run into. One is gas lift cylinders. Some people may call them struts, and they're basically the thing that if you have a SUV with a back hatch, that back lift gate, the things that hold the lift gate open, they make the sound when you're opening.
Yeah,
and they
your
always go
lift
out,
gate,
right?
Or your hood on the front of your
Yeah.
car, the things that hold your hood. Those will go out. If you own your car more than 8-9 years, they're going to start getting at least weaker over time and may not open fully. Or
They get
may
weaker, and in the
collapse
winter
on
they
you.
don't stay up because it's cold.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very easy fix.
Yeah, and those are literally you unscrew or unbolt them, the old ones, and bolt in the new ones. It is not. They're usually very accessible and easy to fix.
Yeah, what I've done before in the past too is I've actually upgraded mine. So you'll figure out the exact replacement part for your back hatch. Okay. And then I'm thinking, I want one that's stronger. So I'm going to get the specs on the exact length of this gas strut that is called for. And then I'll do research and figure out another one that might have a greater, what would you call that? I don't know, the strength. There's probably a term
Like a
for
lifting capacity.
There you
that. Yeah,
go.
something like
Engineer.
that. And it takes a little bit more time, but it was so worth it because it's way better. And it's probably going to last a lot longer because it's stronger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if yours are prone to go out, you might want to try to do some further research and upgrade that part.
Yep. Dave, you had one. You had one that was borderline repair.
We were going to say brakes because we said brakes.
Calipers.
Yeah, we said brakes was a maintenance item, not
There's a maintenance item. So I brought to the table, one of mine was a horn. And Tim said, that's not a repair. Did you say it's not a repair?
I've never.
You said it's not a repair, and I said it is for you because Tim's horn. So,
true.
all right.
Last episode, we mentioned it.
Almost every car has, as far as I know, 2 horns, right? And they're dissonant, okay? So they're notes that are very close to each other, but it's kind of the quintessential
it's like
sound that you think
high
of.
and a low.
Right. And so
It's the annoying sound.
it's the annoying sound to get people out of your way. Well, one of Tim's horns has gone out, and so it's just one tone, and it's the lamest horn sound that you can imagine. It's really bad. And also when I was a kid, when I was younger, we essentially replaced every horn on it. Like all my friends and I, we would replace our horns because we wanted like a train horn sound. I mean, we were jackasses, but it's a good thing to do when your horn goes out, like Tim's. It's an easy thing to fix.
Yeah, that's definitely an easy fix. It's usually a loose wire, but if the horn itself is bad, totally you can replace that.
I mean, this is
Again,
the first car
bolt
I've
in,
ever
bolt
had
out.
that I had to think about the horn being like the Bronco. I took the horn out.
We just wanted cool horns when I was younger, and it was like, well, we're going to replace them.
I mean, I guess it can be on the list. I don't know.
It's on the list.
Back to brakes, though, we did say that calipers. So if you have a sticky caliper, you can. We're talking about disc brakes, right? The calipers with squeezing those pads to the rotor to cause the wheel to stop. So we feel that calipers are for sure something that you can do in your driveway. Now, you will have to bleed the brakes. Anytime you're opening up those brake lines, you're going to have to bleed the brakes and get the excess air out of the line because you've now compromised the brake fluid and introduced air into the line. So you will have to do that.
Yeah, bleeding brakes is a skill. If you don't know anything about it, it's a skill you should have. We're just going to go ahead and say that. You should know how to bleed brakes. Yeah, and if you're getting into calipers, you're going to need to know that. If you know how to change brake pads, then brake calipers are just a few more bolts away. I mean, it's really not much of a bigger step to.
I mean, you're having to take
beyond
the
brake
caliper
pads.
off anyways and set it off to the side. I mean, really all you're doing is disconnecting the brake hose, the brake line to it.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's for sure something you could do in your driveway.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we've exhausted most of our list here. We may have a few left over that we'll get into on a later episode, or if you guys have ideas of something we missed or a question about what about this repair, we're always open to questions on any of our social media platforms.
Yeah, and I know we've got lots of different levels of listeners, right? But the main point we're trying to get across, and the main point of our show, you can, man. What one man can do, you can do as well. So you guys listening, use this as an encouragement and a motivation to not just go to the mechanic. Do this in your driveway, okay? It's going to give you a sense of accomplishment. You're going to save some money, and it's an awesome thing to do. I did want to thank my friend Hassel for giving us this idea. He had texted me, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something like that, and said, hey, I got a show topic idea because I'm underneath my car right now changing my starter in my driveway.
Hope he was using jack stands.
Yeah, but yeah, his name is Hassel. Do you guys know anybody named Hassel?
Nope, first.
Yep, me too. I don't think I'll ever know.
Is that his real name?
That's his real name.
Given name?
It was
H-
Hasselhoff.
Hassel. Hassel.
Wow.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool name.
I don't know if that's like a German. Is that a German name?
Sounds German.
Yeah. He's a great guy. Thanks, Hassel. Okay, so we are going to take a break, and Dave has the bonus segment for us this week. So we'll be back.
This episode is sponsored by 1776 United. 1776 United is a patriotic and historically inspired lifestyle brand. They make the best patriotic shirts and apparel on the market today. I personally own many of their products, and if you want to don patriotic gear without looking gaudy, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and at 1776united.com.
All right, guys, welcome back. Dave, it's your week. It better be good.
It's going to be good.
Dave usually comes through.
It's going to be good. So this week, we've got story time.
Oh.
Story time with Davey. And in the vein of car repair, okay, I'm going to tell the story of the time my friend Ryan and I flipped my parents' Jeep.
Yes, I love this story.
All right.
It stayed in the crypt for
It stayed in the crypt for a long, long time. It was at least a decade. So to kind of set it up, my parents had a Jeep Grand Cherokee. I believe it was 2 years old at the time of the event.
How old were you?
It was nice. It was a nice.
It was really nice.
Well, it was a couple-year-old Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Yeah, it was nice. It's the nicest car that I think that they'd ever had. It's the nicest car I had ever seen or been in. I mean, it was really nice. It was a great car. They had it forever. But so I was 16 years old, right? I was newly licensed, and it was this. So my birthday is in September. It was the springtime, so I had been driving for like 6 or 8 months maybe. And that day we would go out and we would just drive around, okay? It was during the week.
Gas was $1.01.
It was less than $1 for a time period.
Yeah.
So it was around $1. It was cheap. And we would just drive around. And it was during the week. It was a weeknight, a school night. And my buddy Ryan and I actually warned him tonight. I said, hey, heads up. I'm telling the Jeep story. So we're driving around and Ryan is 15. He's 15 years old. I'm 16. I can't believe we were allowed out of the house together. It just seems so insane to me. But we were, and we're driving around, and Ryan's like, hey, man, let me drive the Jeep. And I was like, no way. Now, something that you need to know about Ryan is he's a very persuasive person.
Yes, he is.
And he's a sweet talker. He's a used car salesman, and I use that term affectionately. Ryan's a great guy. I didn't know he was a sweet talker at the time because we'd only been hanging out for like a year. And so I was not immune to his charms, right? Like I am now. Like now I know Ryan, he can't pull one over on me. But at the time, he wouldn't stop. He was like, come on, man, just let me drive. I was like, okay, I'll let you drive. You're not driving on the road. Okay, but we'll go up to the field and you can drive. Now the field, there's now a Walmart there. And but at the time,
that one, I had the story confused.
That's
because
where we went up. That's where we used to go.
I thought that it was behind.
This all happened because of you two, because we were trying to be cool like you guys.
So just an update. Yeah, Tim and I were in the same class in high school. Dave and his buddies were and my brothers was 2 years behind.
Yep.
And so, yeah, basically they did some copycat stuff that we did. Tim and I would take our Bronco and Explorer out. We called it off-road, but it was literally like where they were about to build a Walmart. We called that.
So yeah, it was a grassy field, dirt field, and it was on kind of a plateau, right? So there was the paved road that there was nothing on. Okay, we called it. I can't remember if we called that road Test Drive, but anyway, it was a road that we used to do, an insane amount of crazy driving on. But anyway, there was nothing on it. There was no traffic. I think it was even blocked off. So You had to go around a barricade to get onto this road to get to the field. So we drive on, we go around the barricade, we're driving on the road, and we get to the dirt road that you would drive up to get to the field. And it's at that point, I hopped the curb, got onto the dirt road, and Ryan and I switched seats. Okay, I get out, Ryan gets out, Ryan gets behind the wheel. And immediately floors it, okay? We're going up this dirt hill, and I'm like, like we're going up the hill, and I'm looking over, and as we're cresting the top of the hill, I look over, and we're doing 45 miles an hour. Now, if you've never done 45 miles an hour in your parents' 2-year-old Jeep Grand Cherokee in a field, it's kind of fast. Like, you're not going super fast, but on a dirt road on a field, it's a little bit fast. So we come up into the field, off of the dirt road, 45 miles an hour, and Ryan immediately cuts the wheel, hard lock to the left. Okay, takes a left turn, because we're going up there to do donuts, right? And whips the car around. And if you've ever done donuts before, okay, when you get the car, when you're doing it right, the car is rotating about its center point. Okay, so you're the front end of the car and the back end of the car are moving at the same rate, and you're essentially just stationary, and the car's whipping around you. It's a crazy feeling, but when you're doing it right, it feels insane. So Ryan, cuts the wheel. We like the back end whips out. The car comes to a hard stop, like boom, and when it comes to a stop, it starts to tip.
Okay. That
momentum, man. We were going so fast. The car just boom, like onto the side. Okay, so it
tips over.
It tips over onto my side. I fall against the door, looking straight at the earth. Ryan falls down on top of me, okay, and breaks the center console in the process.
I didn't hear that part. Okay.
Yeah, so Ryan's on top of me, and we're like, what just happened, okay? And we're like, oh, my gosh. So Ryan opens the driver's side door, pops the hatch, so to speak, and we both climb out of the 2-year-old Jeep, okay? It was basically brand new. We climb out, we get out of the Jeep, and we're standing there. I remember it like it was yesterday. We're looking at the bottom of this car, and it felt like 10 minutes. We didn't say a word. We're just kind of like standing there looking at it like, is this real? Like, did this just happen? It's starting to get kind of dark. It was like, dusk. It was like 7 or 8 o'clock. And we're like, what do we do? So Ryan says, oh, we'll just flip it back over. We'll just push it. And I was like, we can't. We're 2 people. We're both super skinny. Okay, it's not going to happen. He's like, come on, we'll push it back over and we'll go home. I was like, okay, I'll entertain this. We go up to the roof of the car. We start pushing. Obviously, it doesn't move. And we're like, okay, we need a better plan. So this was in the early days of cell phones, right? So I had a cell phone. No texting capability. You could just call people. No internet. So I call another buddy, Matt, and say, hey, man.
Would this be the Matt that's been on our podcast?
It's a different Matt. Okay. You guys know him. But I call him, and I'm like, hey, man, I just flipped my parents' car. Can you come help me? And he was like, no, I can't. I was like, dang, man. I think he had something going on. He was busy. So he was essentially the only person I called. So Ryan gets the bright idea. There's an Army recruiter like a half mile away. He's like, let's go over there. We'll talk to them. I was like, okay. So we walk a half mile to this Army recruiter. We walk inside, and they're like, what's up, boys? And we walk in.
Dollar signs. They're seeing a bonus.
Yeah, and I'm still in freak out mode. Like, I can't believe what's happening. And Ryan is over there talking to the Army recruiter. And I can't hear what he's saying. Like, I see Ryan motioning, and I'm like sitting over on the couch. And so the Army recruiter calls his buddy over, calls his girlfriend over, and they take us out. We get in his Dodge Ram. Ryan and I are in the back, and they drive over to the scene of the crime. And we hook it up. Oh, no. Let me back up. The Army guy says, hey, we'll flip it back over, all of us. And I'm like, okay, we have enough people now. We could probably do that. So we go around to the roof of the car. We start pushing it, but it's super heavy, so it's rocking. So we're like, huh, and then it falls, and then it falls. And each time we push, it gets a little bit higher, but it's like crashing down to the earth. So I have to stop. We can't. It's my parents' car. We can't be doing this. So they're like, okay. We had a tow cable, I guess, because we thought we were going to go mudding, and so we end up hooking up to the bottom of the car, to the back of the truck, flip it over in like a half a second, and then, boom, like it flips back over. And we're like, okay, thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you later. And the girlfriend was like, no, you boys aren't going anywhere. She was like, you guys flip this thing. It's probably not safe. You can't drive it.
What?
We need to call your parents.
What?
And so
Did you kidnap her?
There were 2 Army guys, and the other Army guy was like, what are you talking about? He's like, they can't call their parents. Like, they're driving this thing home. And I'm
men are talking.
Yeah, I'm like nodding. I'm like, yes, that is what we're doing. And she said, I am not going to allow that. I don't want these boys getting hurt. They can't leave. So then the guy gets mad. He's like, I'm an Army mechanic. I know what I'm talking about.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so he pops the hood. He pops the hood. Evidently, he was an Army mechanic. He looks at all the fluids. He's like, your fluids are a little low, but it'll get you home. I was like, thank you. Goodbye. And so we actually promised to join the Army. I said, thank you so much. I'll see you in 2 years, which didn't happen. But anyway, so we're driving home, and I'm like, we can't tell my parents what happened. We got to wash this thing off. The truck was kind of dented up. It wasn't in terrible shape. It was a little banged up, and it was real dirty on the side. So we washed it all up at the Oasis car wash. Got it super clean, looking great. And I don't remember the story that we came up with on the way home that Ryan was going to tell his parents. But I get home, and what I told my parents is I said, hey, look, we were at Blockbuster video, right? Like looking
Oh,
for like
man.
a game or a movie or something to rent. And I said, there was this big Jeep and we were parked in this parallel spot and the Jeep it backed out straight into us and dented everything up. And my dad's like, what? I was like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happened. Like they must have backed into me. So he goes out there and he looks at it and he's like, kind of investigating. He looks at the side mirror and he sees dirt caked in between the mirror and the mirror housing. And he calls me out there. He's like, what's going on here? Like not being accusatory, but just kind of like, what's going on here? And I was like, I said it was a really muddy Jeep.
You left some blood, Dave, right?
I did.
You
Yeah.
didn't clean up the crime scene very well.
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, that was the only thing that was left. All right. And so
That's all it takes.
look, I was a good kid. And so they believed me. I never did anything wrong. I was a good
You
kid.
had built up enough personal capital with your parents.
I had. And
Okay, so tell us how long this lie lasted.
We almost had a couple of slips. My sister found out at school. And so that she came home, a couple years later. She's like, David, what happened with somebody said something happened to the Jeep? And I was like, what are you talking about? Of course nothing happened. So we almost had a couple slips. It went on I was married when they found out.
That's awesome.
So it was at least 10 years, 10,
I can't
12
believe
years.
you did that. I don't know that I would have been able to. I don't think I could have done that.
I feel terrible. It was a huge weight that I was carrying with me forever, but
It is the quintessential 17-year-old, 16-year-old
Yes.
thing to do.
there was, even now, there's no question what I would, there's no way I would have told the truth. Like I couldn't tell them the truth. And I was always so nervous about the big thing. All my buddies were like, we're going to tell your parents at your wedding. Thankfully they did not do that. But I actually told my parents we were out to breakfast and I told them and my mom was like, there are just some things that we didn't need to know about. And I was like, whoa, I did not expect that. So anyway, that's the story of when me and my buddy Ryan flipped my parents' Jeep.
All right. Hey, I'm going to steal from your segment idea.
Story time?
Oh, man, I got
These are good. This is a good idea.
Yeah,
Dave. Thank
story
you.
time. It's the way to go.
The stupid things that we did.
Oh, so many stupid things.
I mean,
Yeah, never trust your teenage son.
Do not
That
trust a 16-year-old boy.
That's a
okay, they are
blanket-
up to no good.
That's a blanket statement.
Yes.
And that's a true statement.
oh man, Dave, thanks for that.
No problem.
It's been a while since I heard the story,
Yep.
and you filled in some details, and that was awesome. All right, guys, that's about going to wrap up our show for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, check out our show notes on youcanman.com. Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and leave us a review if you feel so inclined. We will see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.